So today I'm going to be making vegetable or vegetarian cottage pie. I'm going to be using gluten-free all-purpose flour by Great Value, which is a rice flour. I'm going to be using organic vegetable broth by Great Value also. I read the contents and I didn't see anything that contained gluten, but you might want to give it a read or choose one that specifically says it's gluten-free as far as vegetable broth goes. And I'm going to be using 4 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to add some flour to that, which is going to be 4 tablespoons, because we're going to start by making a gravy. So here we go with this. I'm going to try this rice flour, see what kind of gravy it makes. And we're going to brown the butter and the flour. Okay, and then we are going to add the vegetable broth. So I'm going to get this a little warmer. Right now I have it on low, and I'm just going to stir it together. And I'm going to stir it, like I said, until it gets slightly browned. So far it looks like it's going to make a pretty decent gravy. It does have xanthan gum in it, and I think that helps as far as being a thickening agent. And so you can also use this gravy recipe, if you're not a vegetarian and you want to make a different, type of cottage pie, that's fine, but this is going to be vegetarian. It's not going to have any meat or meat products. If you wanted something like Beyond Meat, hamburger crumbles or whatever, you could also add that to this recipe, but just for the purpose of making the video, I'm only going to be using vegetables. So it takes a little while to brown. It's taken a little bit longer than regular flour, but that's probably because it's rice flour. But it is doing quite nicely. It's bubbling up really good, like it should. It's starting to brown. It doesn't have to get really dark brown. It can be a light golden brown. That's fine too. So now I would say it's a light golden brown. I want it just a little bit darker before I start adding the broth. And I have a 32-ounce carton of broth. We're probably not going to be using all of that. Maybe 2 cups, something like that. Okay, now we're getting a nice brown color. It's a light brown, kind of like a light caramel color. I don't know if you can see that, but it's looking pretty good. I want to get it just a little bit darker. So that's a good color, and now I'm going to start adding a little bit of broth. That's probably about a cup right there, okay? I'm going to work that all in, and we need to get this heat turned down. That's what we need to do. Let's put that on low, because we really don't want this to burn. Now I'm going to add about another cup, and just keep stirring, It smells really good, I can tell you that. It smells really good. So you know about how it's supposed to look. I'm sorry, I got off camera there for a second. I got distracted. This is hard to cook and hold the camera at the same time and everything. So that's probably about 3 cups of broth right there. I'm actually kind of surprised at how well this flour thickens. I wasn't expecting it to be this good. Alright. It's getting a lot smoother now, and so I'm going to add some more. That's about half the container right there. And we want a thick gravy for this dish. Maybe not this thick. I'm probably going to end up adding some more liquid. But you get the idea. I just can't believe this. I have never done this with the Great Value gluten-free rice flour before. And let's add just a little bit more. So that's maybe 3/4 of a carton right there. I think that's a really nice texture. I really do. And I'm kind of tempted to add some dehydrated onions to this. I'm going to give it a test taste. That's what I'm going to do. It's still a little bit too what I would call floury. So I'm going to add just a little bit more. And I did give it a test taste. To me, it does need salt. Now, there is some salt in the broth, but not a lot. And so I'm going to give it another test taste and see where we are. So I have taken the gravy and I put it in this bowl here. I'm just going to set it aside. Okay, now for this step, I have, let's see, I have some potatoes. That's about 2 potatoes peeled and chopped into 1-inch chunks, maybe 1/2 inch. And I've got about 6 baby carrots chopped up in there, and 2 stalks of celery, and 1 cup of corn, and 1 cup of diced tomatoes, just from a can. And what I'm going to do is, I covered this in vegetable broth. I had some left in that carton. And so I'm going to bring this to a boil, and I'm going to cook the vegetables to al dente. They're not going to be all the way done, okay, but they're going to be softer, you know, not raw, because I'm also going to be draining this off and putting this mixture in the oven. I'm going to be mixing this with the gravy that we made earlier, okay, and we don't want the vegetables to get too broken down and mushy, so I don't want to cook them all the way in this process. I'm probably going to boil them for about 10 minutes and then drain and then mix with the gravy. So the vegetables were on a soft boil for 10 minutes to pre-soften them. They're still not completely cooked, and like I said, that's the way we want it. So now I'm going to add the gravy, and I'm going to give this a stir and a taste test to see how much salt we need. So I'm going to give this a little shake. Not really measuring, but I don't really know how much that was, but just a few shakes of salt, and I'm going to stir it up and see what we got. Just a little bit of salt is all you need, and I really mean that, because there's something about this that really absorbs the salt, so just be very careful with your salt. I have just the right amount. So now I have 2 cups of the gluten-free all-purpose flour in this bowl, and I have 1 stick of frozen butter. And I'm going to grate this butter into the flour. And I also have some ice water here. And I have a dough cutter, which is kind of like kitchen brass knuckles. So anyway, in small increments, I'm going to grate the butter. And then with the dough cutter, I'm just going to mix it in gradually, okay? And I'm going to be using the large holes, because if you use the small ones, it'll take you forever. Okay, so, and when you get down to the end, you have to be really careful with your fingers. You could take a knife and just cut the rest of it up in little pieces. So I just kept repositioning the butter until I got it down to about this right here. And so I'll just take a knife and I'll just kind of cut the butter into little pieces and drop it in here. Like I said, it's going to all be evenly incorporated, but it's just easier if you grate some frozen butter in here. The smaller the better as far as the pieces. And then with this dough cutter, I'm just going to keep on with this until I have like granules, like pea-sized granules all the way through the flour. So it could take a little while. You could also use a food processor, you know, to chop this all up. You know, whatever makes you happy. And you can also use your hands, like so. Especially you get those little small, those larger chunks that I cut up with the knife. And so you kind of get an idea of what we're going for here. We're starting to get that granule texture for our pierogi dough. And now we're going to add just a little ice water at a time. We're probably going to end up only using about a quarter cup, half a cup all together because it doesn't take much. If you get too much, you can always add a little flour, okay, and vice versa. If it gets too dry, you can always add a little ice water, okay. So I need to add some more. I really don't want the ice cubes in there. Whoops. Okay. So it's starting to come together. As you can see, it's starting to clump up. It's going to need a little more. And we're just going to keep on until we have a ball of dough that we can handle. Like I said, it's not going to take much water. You can see how quickly it's coming together. Just a tiny dash more. That's it. Alrighty. Okay, now we can clump this together and we can make a ball of dough. So that's the goal. It's going to still be slightly sticky, and that's okay, because you're going to be flouring your surface to roll out your dough. So at the end, this is what you have. You have like a softball, all right? And it's just slightly sticky, as you can see. Okay, so now we're going to need to flour our surface. So this is a rolling pin that I got off of Amazon. And these little rings right here, okay, they come off, and you can put the size ring that you want to determine the thickness of your dough. I'm going to be using the blue rings because that makes the dough 1/8 of an inch thick, which is very thin, and that's what we want. And I already have the size on there that I want. As you can see, that twists off, and you can change the rings. These rings are going to be for a thicker dough, and there are times when I want that, but not in this particular case. So I have floured my surface here, okay, and I'm going to take this ball, I'll put some flour on my hands, and I'm going to cut this ball in half, all right, and then I'm going to set this one aside, okay, and then this is the one that I'm going to be working with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pat it out to about 6 inches in diameter and about a 1/2 inch thick, and I'm going to flour it as I go. It doesn't have to be perfect, all right? And then I'm going to take my 1/8 inch roller, sorry, there's butter on there, and I'm going to flour it too. You want to flour your rolling pin. And then start to roll. Let's move that one out of the way. Okay. Let's give it a turn. And that will happen. Forgot about that. But that's the only thing about this rolling pin is, you know, it will cut into your dough. And if you have a crack in your dough like that, all you have to do is put a little water. Just take a little water out of here, right like that. Stick it back together. It's just like glue. Just like glue. All right, and then you flour it. And start rolling. And what you want to get out of this is you want to get 2 pieces that are about 5 to 6 inches in diameter. And I believe we have enough dough to do that. We just about have it rolled out to 1/8 inch thickness. This will drive you crazy if you have any kind of OCD because the dough isn't even, if you know what I mean. It has an irregular border and all that. So I got these on Amazon as well, and they're empanada presses, but they're also great for making pierogies. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back and cut a circle. I'm going to cut as many as I can. Okay. And then what I'll do is I will take this circle, put it in here, stretch the sides out. Then I'm going to fill it with about 3 tablespoons. Sorry, I went off camera. Okay, let me do that again. Okay, so I have that circle. I'm going to put it on the inside of this empanada maker. Okay, and I'm going to stretch out the sides a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons of mashed potato and egg and parsley mixture inside here. And then I'm going to put water around the edges and then close it to seal. Now it's time for the mashed potatoes that go in the potato pierogies. So I have 4 small potatoes here, peeled and cubed into about 1/2 to 1 inch chunks. I'm going to bring them to a boil because we're going to make a really thick mashed potato with them. So here I've drained the potatoes, okay, and I'm going to add, let's see here, just a smidgen of salt, not too much, okay, and I'm going to add a tablespoon of fresh chopped parsley. Make sure you get all the hard stems out. Okay, and I'm going to add some butter. Let's see, where did my butter go? Oh, okay, I already dropped it in there. 2 tablespoons of butter. And just a smidgen of heavy whipping cream, okay? And I'm going to use an old school potato masher, this right here, all right? And I want a thick mashed potato, okay? Because I'm going to be adding eggs to this, okay, because it's going inside the pierogies. And when you add egg, that is going to add liquid, and that's going to make them thinner. So you want a nice, thick, firm mashed potato. And so I'm going to add just a little bit more heavy whipping cream there, okay, just in little drizzles like that, until I have a nice thick mashed potato. Now see how thick this mashed potato is? It's not falling off. That's how you want it. That's exactly what you want. Lumps are okay. Now I'm going to add 2 eggs. But before adding eggs, this mixture has to cool, because if I add the eggs right now, what it's going to do is it's going to cook the eggs. So we don't want that. So I'm going to let this cool down to about room temperature. Then I'm going to add 2 eggs. So I got 6 circles with my press here. And this is about a 5 1/4 inch press. Okay. And I did not refrigerate, because when you refrigerate you could have cracking. And so we don't want that. We want them to be soft and pliable. Now we have our 2 beaten eggs, and our potatoes have cooled to room temperature. I'm going to add the eggs now. Going to give it a thorough stir, get it all mixed together well. Now we're going to take some of this mixture, and I'm going to put it in this individual casserole. It's about a 6-inch diameter. I can't remember where I got these. I think it was some restaurant supply, but there are some that are similar, made by Anchor, that you can get at Walmart. And so I'm just going to fill that about that much. What is that? About a 1/3, okay? Because the pierogies are going to sit on top. Now we've got to start making them. So I have 2 dough circles here. One of them is on the bottom, and then on top of that circle that's on the bottom, I put about 1.5 tablespoons of the mashed potato, and then I put another dough circle on top, and then I put water around the edges, and then I topped it with another dough circle, and then I'm just going to go around the sides, okay, and seal them. Then I'm going to take this large pierogi-like UFO, and I'm going to stick it on top here. And that's going to be the crust for my cottage pie. And then I'm going to bake this in the oven for about 30 minutes. I am going to put some egg wash on the top. And to do egg wash, you do 1 egg yolk and 1 tablespoon of water, and you mix it up and then brush it on top. And I'm going to check it every 10 minutes. Okay, So now I'm going to brush the top of this with egg wash. Earlier I said I was going to put these inside of an empanada press and close them shut. And that did not work out very well. This dough is not pliable enough. I may need to try a different dough recipe, okay? Because the rice flour dough just isn't friendly to that. So we're going to try what I call the UFO, okay? That still looks pretty cool. And now I'm going to put it in the oven at 350. Like I said, check every 10 minutes. So it's been about 30 minutes, and I'll be honest, I expected the whole thing to disintegrate and fall apart, but it's actually quite firm, just like a wheat flour, okay? I am going to let this cool for about 10 or 15 minutes because it is boiling hot, and it would just burn my mouth. I can't wait to give it a test taste. I took a bite of the crust. I'm not quite used to the taste of rice flour yet. And I lifted this up because I fully expected this bottom part to disintegrate and just fall down into the vegetable and gravy mixture, but it didn't. And so now I want to slice into this, and I want a bite of that potato pierogi along with all of this. And I want to see what that tastes like. Actually, I think it tastes better than I expected. Okay, it takes a little getting used to if you're not used to rice flour. I've actually never had it because I'm not, I don't have celiacs, I don't have a gluten allergy or anything, so I've never had a reason. But I just wanted to test this recipe. Now, the under part of this is more chewy, and if that's not something you think you would like, it's fine with me. That part actually turned out like regular dough that you make with wheat flour. You could actually bake these ahead of time and then put them on top after you bake the vegetable mixture if you want it crispy on both sides. Okay, and so better than I expected. I wasn't expecting it to taste good at all, and it does. And so I don't know, give it a try. So what I really love is the potato pierogi filling part. And, you know, this is tasting better than I expected. The only thing that I would do different is I would probably add a little salt to the dough, because I didn't in this instance, because I knew I was going to be salting the potatoes, and the vegetable and gravy mixture is also salted, but just a little bit of salt in the dough mixture, and maybe even a different dough recipe, one that provides a stretchier dough. You know, might work a little better, but it definitely needs to be 1/8 inch thick. I can't see it being any thicker than that. It does expand just a little bit, and I was surprised by that too. So I'm going to sit down and enjoy this vegetable pot pie now that is gluten-free, and I appreciate you watching the video. Thank you. Have a great day.